in the championship. He's drivers to watch out for then in this qualifying session. Number 4, 7 and 15, Stuart Marston also made it up onto the podium. And yesterday, in terms of a lap time to look out for in qualifying, Andrew Morrow set the benchmark time in yesterday's qualifying 1 with a 1 minute 53.256 second lap. The drivers still just building up to speed. Not all of them have quite gone out, but it's starting to get a bit busier out on the circuit now. So it gives me a chance to introduce you to the commentary team. You've heard from Dave Richardson down in the pit lane. My name's Chris Hartley, and alongside me in the commentary box is a very good morning to Adam Weller.
Good morning, Chris. Great to be back here for Sunday qualifying 2 of the weekend for Ferrari Challenge UK. And as we've seen already on Saturday, we had qualifying as well, particularly from the driver of that number 4 car, Mr. Morrow, absolutely sweeping the Saturday here, and he'll be looking to continue that in round 2 of the season, as it were, the Sunday here at Snetterton. And well, he really has set himself up as the driver to beat the benchmark on the grid already at this early stage of the season.
Yeah, absolutely right. It was terrific yesterday, wasn't he, Andrew Morrow, in his first season of car racing last year, his first season of Ferrari Challenge UK, finishing as the championship runner-up and a race winner here in what was only his second weekend last year. You're looking on screen if you are near one of the screens in either the hospitality units that you're watching live around the world, or you are here at the circuit, and one of the teams in the garages, it's H. Sickins that's on screen at the moment, and he's just gone quickest with a 154.308 second lap. Absolute best set to 1 and set to 3 times. And then we've got John Dillon at the moment, second quickest with the 158.062. Although Andrew Morrow puts his first proper lap of the session in and goes straight to second place in car number 4 with a 154.956 second lap. We have seen 16 cars take to the track of the 17. Happily as well, Marcus Vivian is one of those, number 28, who's involved in the big incident that we had at Agostini yesterday in the race. We've also seen, joining a little bit late on, but out there anyway, was Robert Rees, who was already in a secondary car after he had an incident in qualifying yesterday. Had a really frustrating race, a kind of test session yesterday for him, but the white number 13 car is out there. Faisal Al-Faisal had some troubles as well yesterday, but he's gone back out there. So the one we're missing, Adam, and I don't know if Dave is able to confirm this down in the pit lane. He might even be here, but we haven't seen the other driver that was involved in that crash yesterday, Paul Rogers. I spoke to Paul. He was around the podium at the end of the race yesterday. He was fine. He was a bit shaken up. He was a little bit stiff, but otherwise he was okay. But he wasn't sure he was going to be able to take part in today's race, unfortunately, which is a real shame, Adam, because he's one of the favourites for the Coppa Shell coming into the season.
Yes, exactly. No, he is not going to be taking part today. Obviously, we saw the scale of his accident yesterday, and that car needs more work than one can do in a paddock reasonably. So unfortunate that Paul Rogers is starting his season with non-scores in Coppa Shell. That could prove to be costly later in the season, but hopefully we see him back out for the second round of the season at Alton Park in a few weeks' time. And of course, he is going to come back fighting and swinging, I'm sure. He's a driver that really enjoys his Ferrari Challenge UK racing, has some healthy rivalries and fun bonds almost with some of the drivers up and down the paddock at this stage, and he'll be welcomed back with open arms to the grid when we go to Alton.
Over the line is about to come Andrew Morrow, and that is a 155.363. He did the absolute best middle sector, but the lap fell away overall a little bit at the end. We've got Carl Cavers on a good lap as well, number 51. He did an absolute best first sector time. So 51, the red car with the luminous yellow strips, is about to come over the start-finish line. Can he get himself provisionally onto the front row of the grid? Through he comes, and his time, no, slows down as well in the last sector. So there are sort of teasings of a better lap time here from both number 4 Andrew Morrow and 51 Carl Cavers, but for now they remain second and third in the order behind H. Sickins, number 16, who still has that best time of a 154.308. And as Dave was saying in the pit lane, Adam, the situation with the Pirelli Zero slick tyres is that you get 8 new tyres to last 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races, so 2 full sets basically. And it might be that the times are slower in this second qualifying session because people are saving their best second set of new slick tyres for the race.
That could be the case, yes. I believe, though, speaking of Dave's insight from down in the pits, we are due more of it. So we will head down to Dave Richardson now.
Okay, you join us down here in the pit lane as we're awaiting Andrew Morrow to come in. And what I thought would be interesting during this qualifying session is just to prove how everyone works very much as a team. So Andrew's gone out pretty early on yesterday's tyres. He's going to come in now, and as you can see here, there's a brand new set of P0s waiting to go on the car of Andrew Morrow. So having listened into the teams, we're pretty sure that at the conclusion of this lap, he will indicate right and come into the pit lane, and we're going to talk you through the stop as it happens. Now, always very, very interesting because every driver relies on the team and the backup that they get from the team as well. And the number 4 car of Andrew Morrow is on its way coming into the pit lane, and the guys will go to work. You can see them all standing by here. The wheel gun is ready. The tyres are ready to go on. And here comes Andrew Morrow right now. So we're bringing this to you live. It is a live pit stop here. Now, of course, this is not in the race. It's in qualifying. So Andrew Morrow stops the car exactly where he needs to, and the guys go to work here. Internal jacks on the 488 Challenge Evo will lift the car up. Words of advice being offered to Andrew Morrow as the team work really, really hard to get the new Pirelli rubber onto the number 4 car. Of course, the Charles Hurst team, and Andrew Morrow very much the driver of the car, and of course hugely successful driver as well on the top step of the podium yesterday. So you can see it's a real effort here with the guys as they're on the wheel guns, and they really do go on at quite a force, and the old tyres coming off, the new tyres are going on, and Andrew Morrow will be sent out again. Now, the strategy is, I am told from the team, once the new tyres are on, is do the minimum amount of laps necessary to gun an absolutely brilliant time. That will give Andrew tyre longevity in the race so that he'll have as much life in the rubber as possible. The jacks go down, and we're ready to send him out again. We're just holding him for a moment because the pit lane is busy, and the car is just rolling back, just awaiting the okay from the team before they will send him out. And the reason he's not been sent out straight away is the Julian Dye car is coming down the pit lane right now, and that's being followed by another one. So Andrew being held by the team before he is released out into the hot lane of the pit lane and then back out onto the track. So it becomes very, very busy, as you can see. You've got Stuart Marston and also Julian Dye. They're all stacked up here in the pit lane, which actually really compromises how Andrew can go out, because they're going to have to push the car back right now, because with the steering lock that he's got, there was not quite enough for him to be able to just come out of his box and get back out onto the pit lane. Being held for a moment as other cars are coming into the pit lane as well. So there we have it, Adam and Chris. We thought we'd bring that to you live. A pit stop down here in the pit lane with the new Pirelli rubber, so expect some very quick times to come now from Andrew Morrow.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much, Dave. That's a brilliant insight and backs up what we were saying about the tyre choice here. So he'll go out on those new slicks. He won't be the only one to do so. That will give him a big advantage over the used tyres from yesterday. However, Adam, use them for as little as you can, because you want to save them for what's a pretty long 30-minute race this afternoon.
Yes, of course, saying a long 30-minute race on the tyres, especially if you're thinking in terms of what your road car would do, you're thinking, well, that doesn't make any worldly sense. But the optimal grip window for any racing tyre is fairly small. So you don't want to go and pound around for an entire half hour here in qualifying, take all the life out of the tyres critically, then leave them to get the heat out of the tyres in the garage for a few hours, and then try and stick them back on in the race. It simply won't work. So it is a matter of conservation. Of course, you mentioned yesterday's pole time, as we see a puncture, I believe, on the 77 car. Or is that just slow? It's just slow,
No,
all but damaged on the 77.
Left rear quarter on Paul Simerson's car. So he's had a moment somewhere around the lap, and he's, I'm afraid, limping back to the pits. He's in the infield section at the moment. He has got a couple of laps under his belt, but he's only 7th quickest at the moment, although he is 2nd in the Coppa Shell category. But it's time perhaps to get the car in and have a look at it, but whether they'll have time to repair it, he's just at the moment, number 77, limping his way into Oggies, so he's got to go through Oggies Williams all the way down the Bentley Straight. It's going to be a long trip back, so it's going to take him a few minutes to get back, and he's been as gentle as he can because he doesn't want to create any further damage. That's that car. Look at Andrew Morrow building up, just scrubbing in those new Pirelli Zero tyres. Number 16, Sickens into the pits. He's still quickest from that very early lap, 154.308. For Andrew Morrow's just come back out on the new Pirellis. He's second still with a 154.956. Only 49 thousandths of a second behind him is Faisal Al-Faisal, we were watching on the live stream just a couple of minutes ago. Faisal has done a good job here to get himself up to third place in the red number 76 car. 51 Carl Cavers in the pits is fourth. 61 John Dillon also in the pits is fifth. Best of the Coppa Shell drivers, and this is impressive, Adam, because he was involved in that incident yesterday. So well done to the team for getting everything repaired. He is the current Coppa Shell class leader in this session, car number 28, Marcus Vivian, in sixth place overall. Yesterday's Coppa Shell winner, Paul Hogarth, next up in seventh in car sixth. Eighth is Simerson, limping his way back and with a black and orange flag, but that's a mechanical disqualification. That is just a procedural thing to say. You've got to come back to the pits because there's something pretty badly wrong with your car, but Paul's obviously already pretty well aware of that, so we'll come to the pits anyway. Ninth is number 15, Stuart Marston, on the podium yesterday in the top three in Coppa Shell, yes, in this session, and 10th is number 13, Robert Rees, which is also pretty impressive.
Yeah, Rees in the pits there, as we can see. Just to mention as well, obviously you discussed the fact that best time right now, 54.3. Yesterday, 53.2 was the pole time for Morrow. Of course, in free practice 2 yesterday, we actually saw him do a 1 minute 52.6. That was before the kind of tyre conservation, before the 8 tyre rule across the 2 qualifying sessions, the 2 races came into effect. Also worth noting that H. Sickens in testing here has done a 51.8 as well. So we know they can go quicker. We're just waiting to see whether anyone is able to net or rather stitch a time together in the qualifying session and have the grip to do it.
You've got 69 on track at the moment, Chris Smith. I just noticed, though, coming into the hairpin that he's just coming out of, Andrew Morrow was trying to start a flying lap, but as he got to turn 1, there are a couple of cars coming out of the pits which completely ruined Andrew's line through Rich's corner. So I think you might have to bail on this one, try and find some track position and have another go. But currently, number 4, Andrew Morrow, on his way down to Agostini. There he is, right on cue. But he's had to work his way past 2, if not 3 cars at the start of this lap already, which is not perfect.
Yes, and you can see there in the back of shot, we briefly got a look at the 28 car, Marcus Vivian. You mentioned, of course, that car back out there after the shunt with Paul Rogers yesterday between Agostini and Hamilton. And they actually shook that car down this morning before quali. They took a few laps in the car to make sure all systems were go. And indeed, the team have done a fabulous job to get Marcus Vivian back out there on the circuit. And great to see him back out on the circuit again on this Sunday. We'll be looking to try and right the wrongs of yesterday and get some solid points on the board in Coppa Shell.
Yeah, he certainly had the pace yesterday, didn't he? So into the pits has come now the number 77 car of Paul Simerson. Whether he'll be able to get back out or not seems doubtful to me with only 12.5 minutes to go, but I'm sure there's an opportunity to do so. They might be able to grab Paul and find out exactly what happened, because it looked like he had an off somewhere, but we only got the back end of the car after that had happened. So we'll find out, but anyway, Paul won't be too bad at the moment because he's qualified currently in 8th place, 7th place. The driver you're looking at, which is Paul Hogarth on a build-up lap. And we can go down to the pit lane now and catch up with Dave Richardson. Apologies, we've got a slight issue with Dave's sound there, so Dave's going to come back as soon as we've got that sorted out. But Dave Richardson down there in the pit lane with more Pirelli tyres to tell us what the situation is there. So we're watching Paul Hogarth there crossing the line, but again, a bit of traffic in front of the green and black Stratstone Manchester number 6 car, which is an issue at the moment because everybody's pretty much out on track, aren't they?
Yes, exactly right. With 16 cars on circuit, sometimes you do kind of end up all in one long queue. Just to mention, you mentioned the green and black of Paul Hogarth's number 6 car. That was actually designed by his son, I discovered this morning in conversation with his driver coach. So Hogarth sporting the family colours, let's say. Meanwhile, having, I think, found a little bit of time and space on the track, Morrow is on a quick lap. However, let's head down to the pits once again with Dave.
Don't want to disturb your quick lap with Andrew Morrow, but Han Sickens just waiting to go out again. And, of course, Han, very much one of Andrew Morrow's competitors in terms of taking the top stop, or top spot rather, in qualifying. Brand new set of Pirellis here. The car is going down now. He's about to respond. I just wanted to show you some of the older tyres that have come off. Now, genuinely, of course, you can't realise this, but as I touch this car, it's just, this tyre rather, it's just come off Hans Sicken's car. It is literally sticky to the touch. So these tyres, and you can see here, it says race 1. These tyres were used in the race yesterday. Their life is just about over, and that's why Hans Sicken now joining the track to put in his hot lap on brand new rubber. It's going to be tight between Andrew Morrow and Hans Sickens, and Adam and Chris going to tell us everything that's going to happen in the final part of qualifying.
Well, and Carl Cavers, because he's on a flying lap, but Andrew Morrow has just gone quickest of all. 1 minute 52.259 seconds. Those new slicks did the job. It's the quickest lap of the weekend so far, but Carl Cavers has done the absolute best first sector, even quicker. So Carl, number 51, the red car with the luminous yellow stripes, he's in the middle of the lap at the moment. He's down a little bit, though, in the mid-sector, so he'll be going down shortly to the bomb hole. Can he make up enough time to get pole position? Certainly still have an eye on moving up from where he is currently, Adam, which is 4th place.
Yes, certainly looking for a front row time here at the bare minimum is number 51 of Cavers, who should be just approaching Murray's now, though. Actually, I think I see Cavers backing out of it at Coram. So Carl Cavers has relented on that lap, maybe made a bit of a mistake in the middle sector, hence that wasn't an improvement in sector 2. We follow Andrew Morrow on the live pictures then, and he has a personal best first sector. What does the second sector look like then? Let's see, it's another purple, so Morrow potentially on a quicker lap as he goes into Brundle and Nelson in the number 4 car, just ahead of this machine of H. Sickens, who is also on 2 personal bests as well. So you've got the number 4 and then this car, the number 16, both going fairly quickly. In fact, it's Dylan with 2 green sectors in second place. So all of our front runners are currently finding their best times as Morrow comes around the final corner.
Yeah, John Dillon, number 61, has got himself into second place, and he's on a better lap than he was with the one that improved, but he's 2 seconds plus behind Andrew Morrow's best time currently. We've also got to keep an eye on Carl Cavers, who backed off on that lap, and he's going for potentially another one. Wow. Wow, 1 minute 51.448 seconds for Andrew Morrow. That is, I mean, up until this qualifying session, the best lap was 1.2 seconds slower than that. That is lightning quick.
I didn't necessarily believe H. Sickens when he told me he'd done a 51.8 in testing, but now I have reason to do so. 151.448 then from Andrew Morrow. Our front runners this year are certainly laying down the pace in this final section, this closing stanza of qualifying 2 here at Snetterton. What a delight this is to see Morrow pushing so hard in his number 4 car. He was off in the first sector on this lap, a few tenths down on his personal best through sector 1. But I hazard to guess that anyone who does go quicker than a 51.4 is going to set the lap of their lives. That's a very difficult benchmark that Andrew Morrow has set there for the rest of the field.
Just to put that into context, last year, the quickest race lap we had here 12 months ago was Sickens, 152.7. And the average speed on that lap was nearly 95 miles an hour, the average speed. So the average speed on that lap, with all these twists and turns and hairpins and braking zones, was 25 miles an hour above the national speed limit on the motorway here in the UK. And Andrew Morrow has just done a 151.4, which is 1.3 seconds quicker than the best lap from last year's race. That is an incredible effort. And if I was Andrew, the team now, he's 1.3 seconds clear. I think I would be tempted to call it a day and save the tyres. However, Carl Cavers has improved up to second place with a 152.7, and he still might be a danger.
Morrow's just crossing the line again, having gone purple in the middle sector, but it's only, and I say only with all the air quotes in the world, a 151.6. Cavers improves to a 52.7 there in second place. So really interesting that we are now in this almost limbo section of the qualifying where everyone keeps lowering the bar. But if we go any lower than a 51.4, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, so like he did yesterday, really, Andrew Morrow has got not just the best time of the session, he's also got the second best time of the session. So he's you know, second best effort, still good enough for pole position. So number 4, Andrew Morrow, pole position with a 151.448 with 5 3/4 minutes to go. Provisionally on the front row with him is number 51, Carl Cavers, who's just done a personal best second sector, but he was down a bit on his own time in sector 1. So to try and bridge a 1.3 second gap might be a bit much, but he's also got to be mindful of the fact that John Dillon is only half a second or so behind him. So Carl needs to keep pushing, because 61 John Dillon, 153.266. H. Sickins down at 4th place now in car 16 with a 154.308. Al Faisal, car 76, next up in 5th, and the best of the Copper Shells is Paul Hogarth still, car number 6 in 6th places. Here comes Carl Cavers to see if he can improve his lap, Adam.
Yeah, Cavers crosses the line this time then. Let's see what the critical final sector yields for him. It is a slightly improved time, a 152.268, so knocking on the door of breaking the 52 barrier with just under 5 minutes of the session left to go is Carl Cavers. You mentioned there Paul Hogarth. He did just go top in Copper Shell a few moments ago and is again on a fairly quick first sector by the looks of it. So Hogarth currently with the Copper Shell pole effectively. We haven't seen a quick time yet out of Graham DeZille. However, he's just set a personal best middle sector and is coming around Coram now. So we may see Graham DeZille, another of our Trofeo Pirelli drivers, launch himself up into the first couple of rows of the grid in the next few moments.
That's right, Graham DeZille had potted out on the track a couple of times but never completed a lap. He was involved in an incident with Paul Hogarth at turn 1 yesterday, and yeah, it's a driver you'd expect to be certainly up there in the top 6. Graham, a very experienced driver of Ferraris and many other things, including street cars back in the 1980s. So Graham, he's from the Channel Islands, trying to improve and looking like he will do, but still not yet got a proper lap time in. So Stone last. And for Carl Cavers, this is all a bonus really, isn't it? Because yesterday he started at the back of the field because he couldn't take part in qualifying, and he's still got the podium. So two different types of races to look forward to. Yesterday we were looking forward to quick battles at the front and some quick drivers coming through from the back. But now we've got a real tasty look to the grid with Morrow, Sickins, Cavers and Dillon all up there on the first 2 rows of the grid, all having had to bring out their new slick tyres in the second half of this session to find some time.
Yes, no, it's compelling, isn't it? We've got very different drivers there as well. Cavers, I mentioned yesterday, for my money, I think he's got the busiest calendar of any of the drivers this year, between 2 or 3 full season campaigns that he's doing. Has really dived headlong into his racing as Carl Cavers. Morrow was a rookie 12 months ago to motorsport and has taken to it like a duck takes to water. H. Sickins has been a regular now in Ferrari Challenge for quite some time, and then you've got John Dillon, who has raced pretty much anything with a prancing horse badge over the last 10 to 15 years. So 4 drivers of very different experience levels, very different schedules across your average racing season, but they look to be, provisionally at least, our front 2 rows when we go racing later on, and that will be a very exciting first few laps.
Give a shout out as well to the drivers in the Copper Shell category. We mentioned Paul Hogarth, 6th place overall, but Stuart Marston managed to improve before he came into the pits just now. So Stuart, number 15, is second quickest of the Copper Shell drivers. It's only his second season in the championship. It's only his second season of motorsport, and he has got himself into 7th place overall. 8th place and 3rd in the Copper Shell category is Jonathan Satchell, who was 4th in the category in the race yesterday. So Jonathan with a good lap there. The gap between Paul Hogarth and Stuart Marston is pretty minimal at 0.18 seconds. It's even closer between Marston and Satchell with 0.99 seconds, so 99 thousandths of a second between Marston and Satchell. Then we've got Chris Smith, who's debuted well, 4th in the category, number 69 in 9th, and also in the top 10 and 5th in the category is Robert Rees, who's raced with the Ferrari Owners Club in previous years, racing 428s and the like, so he's making his debut this weekend as well, number 13 in 10th place.
Yeah, I'm impressed with both Robert Rees and Faisal Al Faisal in this session, because of course this isn't the same car that he practiced with and qualified with yesterday. They've had to take spare cars out for both Faisal Al Faisal and this man Robert Rees after collisions we saw in yesterday's qualifying sessions, and so they've had to jump into a new car. Of course, the team here at the Ferrari Challenge UK outfit and their respective dealerships will have made sure the car is set up to their liking, but that's no small thing, and all cars have their own quirks. That's just the nature of the automobile, and the fact that Faisal is up there in 5th place and Rees is 10th, both strong within their respective classes, the Trofeo Pirelli and Copper Shell, is very impressive.
There is Andrew Morrow out of the car then. Another sensational session, but what a, well, I'm not going to say what a lap, what 2 laps he did, because he did 151.4 and a 151.6. Nobody's got anywhere near those lap times, so that was a fantastic pole lap from Andrew Morrow. Back through the records, but I think that might well be a lap record as well for Andrew with a 151.448. He's going to get pole position as he had yesterday for the 30-minute race coming up. We've only got 20 seconds left on the clock. Still cars out there trying to improve, including Julian Dye, who's now 16th of the runners, and that's because the driver that was 16th, we talked about his problems yesterday. Graham Dizil has found a bit of pace now. So number 19, Graham Dizil, has got himself up into 9th place. Did that last time around with a 155.51. He does need to find another half second though to get himself any further up the order. The checkered flag is now out, as you can see from the graphic on your screen. Time is up, so every time somebody crosses the line now, that's it for them. But there's not too many cars left with a chance to improve. Certainly none of the front runners, I don't think. H. Sickins' last lap round was a relatively sedate one. He's the driver that's going to be on the front row of the grid, though, because previous to that, he had improved himself to a 152.105 to just sneak ahead of Carl Cavers, who has been demoted to 3rd place now. So Sickins, just of the front runners, was the last to make an improvement. A couple of minutes to go, and he went from 4th to 2nd. So it is going to be the same yesterday, Adam, with Morrow and Sickins up there, but with Carl Cavers hot on their heels this time.
Yes, no, I'd say while the front row is the same, the dynamic of the race later on is going to be vastly different. Last time we had Cavers having to work from the very back from 17th on the grid, which he did a stellar job of executing, mind you. But with him up there in 3rd place today, he will certainly be sniffing for a victory, as will H. Sickins as well, would like to at least leave in the books.
He's still going, actually. He's on track. He's the last one to cross the line, and he's done 2 personal bests. So H. Sickins still pushing on here. Can he have a surprise pole position here? He was on pole last year. He's absolutely flying at the moment on his way through Corham and down towards the last corner at Murray's. And he looks rapid, doesn't he? Has he got enough here to get himself ahead of Andrew Morrow and onto pole position? It's going to be his best lap of the session if he just holds it together through that last set to the checkered flag awaits. He comes over the line. It is a personal best lap of 152.080. But he stays 2nd. He only shaved a few hundredths of a second off what he'd done before. He just lost a little bit of time in that critical last sector. So an improvement there, and 2nd place gets the gap down to 0.632 seconds.
And lest we forget, that's 0.2 quicker than H. Sickins' pole time in the dry last year. And if anything, that illustrates just how impressive Morrow is at the moment. That Sickins, who's consistently been a front runner here in Challenge UK, is still not able to match that pace of Andrew Morrow, who really is showing himself to have, I think, done a lot of work over the winter to be even better than he was in 2022.
It's confirmation of the qualifying 2 results then. Andrew Morrow will start from pole position with a time of 1:51.448 seconds, just over 6/10 clear of H. Sickins in the number 16 car with a 1:52.080. 3rd, number 51, Carl Cavers with a 1:52.268. And then 4th, John Dillon. 5th, Faisal Al Faisal. 6th, and the best of the Coppa Shell drivers with a bonus pole position point, Paul Hogarth, who's already, of course, the Coppa Shell championship leader after yesterday's win. Stuart Marston qualifies better than yesterday, 2nd in class and 7th overall, with Jonathan Satchell in 8th. Graham Dizil with 9th place, and Robert Rees doing a good job there to qualify in the top 10. Chris Smith 11th, Marcus Vivian in 12th, William Tawire 13th. Paul Simerson, of course, didn't do most of that session. He's back in 14th with Peter Hunter 15th and Julian Dye 16th in that session. So let's take a look now at some of the highlights from that terrific qualifying 2 session. It all started pretty quickly out on track. Drivers keen to get out there, but at times they were struggling with used tyres, and it wasn't long before the new tyres went on. There's a problem there for Paul Simerson, and a good effort from Chris Smith, who ended up being just outside the top 10 in the 69 car. Carl Cavers was pushing hard and at one time was on the front row of the grid, but ends up third. Paul Hogarth, continuing his excellent form, will be on pole position in the 6 car for the Coppa Shell category. Stuart Marston there, just behind him, will qualify second in the 15 car. And there, though, on screen, the driver starring in that qualifying session was Andrew Morrow, number 4. Good effort from Jonathan Satchel as well to get in the top 3 in car 7 in the Coppa Shell category. And others were out there late on trying to improve, including Robert Rees, who did a fine job in his spare car to get himself up into the top 10 after his incident in qualifying yesterday. Paul Hogarth was pretty busy in the Stratstone Manchester car, the green and black machine, to make sure he stayed in the Coppa Shell pole position and got that point just ahead of Stuart Marston. And there the checkered flag came out, and Andrew Morrow, the star of the show, with the quickest lap of the weekend so far, 1 minute 51.448 seconds. The best lap of the weekend. Can they catch him? Paul Hogarth on great form as well in Coppa Shell. The winner yesterday, pole position today. Let's see what Paul can do in this afternoon's race. So that's it on track. We can go straight down though to Dave Richardson in the pit lane.
Thank you so much, Chris. I have Andrew Morrow here, fastest man of the weekend. Well done, Andrew. You nailed it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just car felt good this morning. Track was fast. Managed to pull together a good lap. Don't know what we really did, to be honest, but no, it came together nicely.
Did you have just a few nervous moments in the garage because Sickins was still chasing down right to the end of the session, Andrew?
Yeah, no, we came in after we'd done the lap to save the tyres. So standing in the garage, watching Hans still on track was nerve-wracking, but thankfully we managed to keep pole position, so it was good.
So come on, you're in the perfect position to make it 2 out of 2 this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, look, we're giving it a good go, but it's still going to be a challenge. Lots of quick guys right behind me, so we'll see how it goes.
Many congratulations, pole position. You get the Rotiform Pole Position Award. Well done, Andrew Morrow. So there we have it then, our pole sitter for today's race that comes a little bit later on. If you think qualifying was exciting, it will be as naught in comparison to the race. Please make sure you join us for that.